In this episode, we are honored to host a young achiever whose roots lie in two cultures renowned for their resilience and determination in the pursuit of liberation. It's no surprise, then, that despite the significant personal challenges he faced early in life, he has not only overcome them, but also forged ahead to achieve success, culminating in his election to a position in his village's municipality while still in his 30s. We are truly grateful to him for sharing not only his journey, but also the invaluable lessons he has learned along the way. His story is sure to inspire and resonate with anyone who has faced or is facing similar challenges. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. These words by Khalil Gibran remind us of how challenges shape resilience. And today, we have a real example of this with us. A young achiever who turned his hardships and struggles into motivation for success. Joining us today is Makis, who recently won a seat in his village municipality election. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for the invitation.
Congratulations on your well-deserved win. Hoping you all the best in serving your community.
Makis, of course, thank you for being here with us today. I want to take you back in time. Mm-hmm. Makis, the child. Mm-hmm. Tell us, where were you born and when?
So I was born in Sofia, in Bulgaria. And it always throws people off because they immediately think I'm a Bulgarian. But that's actually where my parents met. Mm-hmm. My mother from Cyprus and my father from Palestine. I met as students and I was born there. And spent the first 4 years there as a child and then came to Cyprus. Well, my parents sent me to Cyprus. So.
Do you remember what kind of kid you were?
Quiet one. I think, quiet one for sure. At some point, my family thought I couldn't speak because I was so quiet in the beginning. So they had to do some tests. And the doctors told them, no, he's just quiet. But yeah, quiet, reserved. It's probably the two words that come to mind. Yeah.
Do you have any childhood memory that stayed with you until today? Do you remember anything specific?
A couple of things. Like I remember running away from my dad when he wanted to teach me how to swim. Oh. And I didn't learn how to swim until very late in my life.
But do you swim?
Now I do. But I was a very late learner. Okay. Let's put it that way. I remember traveling with my brother. We went to Jordan, and it was the reason I remember is because my mom and dad put us on they took us to the airport and then they left us there, and it was the air stewardess that took us on the plane. It was a time where you could, I don't know if you can still do that, but at the time it was like they were sending us to see our family in Jordan, and they just left us at the airport, and then the air stewardess took us on the plane, looked after us, and then delivered us to our family in Jordan. So that was another memory that I kind of remember.
I hope it wasn't a trauma.
No. It was actually, it was a good one. Yeah.
When did you come back to Cyprus?
So this, 4 years after I was born. 4 years after I was born, my mom essentially sent me to Cyprus because she wanted to continue her studies. And I kind of like grew up with my grandparents at the time until she was finished. And then, she would return to Cyprus. So, yeah.
So, do you remember anything about when you came back to Cyprus? Were you living with your parents? You were living with your mom and dad? What was your living situation when you came back?
Yeah, it was, initially I was with my grandparents. And then when my parents came, just recent graduates kind of thing, we kind of like stayed in this, small home. Now it's abandoned. It's like almost like ready to collapse kind of thing. But at the time, it was good enough for us to just live there. And then we kind of like moved into another house in the village, which we rented, stayed there for some time, and then eventually kind of like started building my parents started building their own sort of home.
At what age did you come back to Cyprus?
Probably around 4 or 5, I think it was. Yeah.
So basically, you can say you were raised here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I have pictures from when I was in a Bulgarian kindergarten and with kids there, but I don't remember any of that. I actually have a scar up here, which happened when I was in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
But I also don't remember that. And it was a big thing apparently. But yeah, my memories start a little bit after that.
So Bulgaria, basically you don't recollect a lot because basically you were raised here.
Yeah. Fun enough, my first language was Bulgarian though.
Oh.
And like when I came to Cyprus, the only thing I could speak to my grandma was Bulgarian. So until today, I can actually understand a few words and expressions here and there. But and I don't understand why, but it's there.
Okay.
But do you remember your primary years at school here in Cyprus?
Yeah, here, yes, yeah. I have some memories, but again, it's kind of like fuzzy because I don't know. I think my brother, for example, remembers a lot of things. He has this memory of an elephant kind of thing where he just remembers stuff. But or a camel. Apparently, camels don't forget. So.
No, it's very common because, for example, I don't remember any of my, when I was a kid in kindergarten. I don't think I have any memories.
Yeah.
Probably because I don't remember them. So, yeah. So, I want to ask you. You said that you lived with your grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of impact or what did you learn from your grandparents?
Yeah, I was very fortunate because, and I think this is, when people talk about privilege, I think this is a form of privilege. The family that you're sort of born and raised into, you don't get to choose that. It's, some people call it God, some people call it luck, some people call it destiny, whatever you want to describe it. So I was lucky enough to have had a set of grandparents from my mom's side that were, incredible people. My granddad was somebody who, was a very principled man. So I was lucky to have somebody like him as an additional sort of father figure, if you like. My grandma was like full of unconditional love. So she would always just cook for us and just shower us with love and all of that. So just having that amount of love is difficult to not benefit from it going forward, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I think a lot of issues that we see, in life in general is just the lack of that. Whereas I was very lucky to have a lot of that.
What did you learn from your granddad?
It's a tricky topic to talk about because I always get emotional, but I think just respect. Respect was a big one, and just fighting for what's right. Like my granddad was somebody who believed very strongly in the things that he believed in. When there was a military coup in Cyprus, and he went to defend the democracy, democracy in general. Got put in prison and then was let out and stuff like that. But so he put his life on the line for the things that he believed in. So, when you grow up seeing things like that, and I remember as a kid as well, him taking us to demonstrations.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. In one of them, he took us to the British bases when there was the war in Iraq and stuff like that.
At what age?
This was like later. So, but I was still, but even before that, we would go for marches for workers' rights. 1st of May, things like that. It was almost a tradition every year. We would come and march, at Anexartisias and all of that. But
at that age, did you understand the idea?
I don't think
behind going to marches and protests? Did you grasp the idea what your granddad was trying to teach you?
Probably not, to be honest. I think it was more like just looking up to somebody that I admired and had so much respect for, and just maybe started thinking like to myself, like, why is this somebody like my granddad does these things? But I don't think I understood like the meaning or why we're doing it until maybe much later. For sure. Was your granddad a replacement to your father? Yeah, so...
Because you said he was like a father figure, so...
Yeah, so my parents sort of separated when I was about probably, I think it was around 12 or 13. So yeah, it was definitely a father figure replacement for me. You know, it was definitely the person that I had both the most respect and the most fear after my dad, you know? So yeah, it was definitely, again, another area where I was lucky enough to have had that figure to sort of like guide me, I guess. But at the same time, he was also, you know, somebody who, I remember when my parents sort of separated and, well, before they separated, and he was sort of like driving me home one day, and he was kind of like, you know, talking to me and saying, you have to help me keep them together.
Oh.
And, you know, it's a very heavy thing to tell to a 12, 13-year-old, but that's all he knew at the time. You know, this is what I mean.
But did you understand at this age what, I mean, family meant and what divorce meant? I mean,
well, I was actually...
How did this resonate with you, you know?
I still remember my response to him, which was, you know, they keep arguing. Why should they stick together?
Yeah.
So I understood what he was trying to do. But it was also like something that me not knowing was going to put me in a trajectory afterwards in my life where I maybe try to, like, you know, you try to save people and help everyone and this and that. And I think when I look back, I think some of it comes from that moment of like, you're no longer a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, you're like 18 or whatever immediately. But yeah, again, he was just trying to, with whatever way he knew best, to help a situation that clearly was beyond his reach.
Control.
Yeah, and you know, at the time as well, like you're talking about in the 90s kind of thing, society is not ready.
Yeah.
Well, not ready, but like it's very judgmental of like separating and divorces and all of that. And this wasn't just a regular divorce, because this was between my dad and my mom, a non-Cypriot and a Cypriot. You know, my dad was a Muslim, kind of like came to Cyprus, converted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He converted to Christianity and, you know, so learn Greek, all of that.
Wow.
So there was a lot of like...
behind the scenes, let's say.
Yeah, there's a lot of judgment from
complications.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you obviously want to save something like that. You're like so much effort and love and all of that. So, you know, people try their best. So.
And what about your brother at that time? How old he was? And did you by any chance have a direct conversation between both of you about the divorce situation?
No, he was like 4 years younger than me. So I think, you know, I think we spoke about this much later in life, but like I think kind of had a reverse impact on him. Like whereas for me, probably kind of like sped up the maturing process, if you want to call it that. I think for him, it kind of like held him back a little bit because, you know, he lost that kind of father figure. And I think he was still too young to have had my granddad be that replacement. So then he entered this place of rebellion, and he was a lot more like rebellious as a teenager than I ever was. Like he had a motorbike, I never did. You know, I never cared about mine. He had, you know, earrings and stuff like that. Painted his hair, you know, bleached his hair, and you know,
he's a complete different character.
Yeah. So I went, the first time I went to the UK was around when I was, I think, 17. And, you know, it was a love story. I fell in love with like this girl there. And when I, you know, when I went there, this is a phase where I was starting to reject my kind of like origins. So I bleached my hair as well.
We want to know about that.
Yeah, I bleached my hair, right? And anyway, separated with this person, coming back to Cyprus. And at the airport, my granddad comes to pick me up with my mom and my grandma. And as I come out of the gate, my granddad comes towards me, sees me with that hair, And I can see his face like he almost got stabbed in the heart. To stop, turn around, and walk back to the car. So my mom comes to me, is like, "What are you doing? Take the earrings. I had the earrings. So that was it. I never did that again.
Yeah.
But later with my brother, it was all like, it was a different story. So.
He was rebellious.
Yeah. But I think my brother kind of like, I was the person that he was most sort of respectful and fearful of. Like I became, this goes back to
your brother.
I became that.
So you were like a father figure for him.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier about, trying to like be there for everyone and without knowing why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have only one brother, right? Do you have any sisters?
From the same parents, yes. I do have 2 more sisters and a younger brother from my father's second marriage.
How is your relationship with them? Do you have a good relationship?
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Very good. It's something that I trying to do more effort with in now being in Cyprus and being closer to them. And yeah.
Okay.
After your parents got divorced, you stay with your grandparents or you moved to live with your mother?
It was with my mom, but I was also spending a lot of time at my grandparents' house just because it was a safe place, in terms of like, I would go there, we would watch the football game with my granddad, my grandma would make dinner, we would eat, we would watch the news, talk a little bit about politics. It was also, I think looking back now, it was an escape as well for me from, because my mom would work also and she was busy she did a PhD. So she went through a period where she was working and then also studying and, but my mom was there for us as well. So she was very supportive, very, again, another area where I got very lucky.
Yeah.
Privileged.
You never think to go and live with your father after he left?
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because, I think looking back, my dad is somebody who, had a difficult upbringing, He grew up in an occupied homeland, moved around a lot because of that, and then was in Lebanon, fought in a war, so many terrible things. Then you come out of a situation like that, you study and you fall in love, okay, but then you move into another country yet again, where you learn a new language, new customs, new everything. And I think he was also in that process of like figuring out adapting because he wasn't happy with his job in Cyprus and things like that. He wanted to pursue the things that he studied and things like that. So it was difficult. Whereas I think my mom was a little bit more clear in the direction she was heading. My dad was a little bit more unclear maybe. But it also made a lot more sense to stay here because I had a full support network. I have a big family in the village that kind of like came around us and to sort of like.
So it was your choice to stay with your mom?
Yeah, it wasn't my choice per se, but I think it was the understanding, I guess, between my parents. Yeah.
So is your father... Do you have any contact with your father? I mean, is he in the picture?
Yeah. Now very much so. Yeah, there were times like so when he left. The first time I saw him was after like maybe it was quite a few years, but like, and then I moved to London. I lived in London for about 12 years, and then the next time I saw him, there was maybe a gap of maybe 17 years or something like that. But we would be in touch. We would talk every now and then because he lived in Dubai and then he went to Vietnam. And it's just life, I guess. I don't know how best to sort of like explain it, but like circumstances, financial and not, I went through also a phase maybe where I was like not aware of how upset I was about things maybe, where I was rebelling when I moved to London and doing other things. And then, came back to Cyprus. And now I do a lot more sort of just, I go visit them a lot. We talk a lot. Yeah.
While growing up, because I want to ask this question, while growing up, did you realize that you were half Palestinian, half Cypriot?
Oh, yeah.
What did that mean to you? I mean, coming from a Palestinian side.
Yeah, no, the reason I said straight away, yeah, is because this is it feeds into a lot of things that I think we can talk about. But, one of the things that I remember was like my mom telling us not to say our last name.
Oh.
In school or
the family name.
The family name.
The family name.
Okay.
I have, and even my last name is not my dad's family name. It's like the middle name. And all of this was because of security reasons. Like my dad, I mentioned earlier, he fought in a war. My granddad did stuff as well. They were at some point wanted men, even in, here in Cyprus kind of thing. And so my mom was very aware of it. My granddad was very aware of it here kind of thing. So they were always very sort of like
protective.
Yeah. So you kind of learn immediately, like you're different, you're not like other people kind of thing.
But different in a good way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean,
how did you perceive your family being overprotective? Did you understand why they were being overprotective?
I think I was processing it in different ways. I think in one way, it makes you feel cool that you're different. In another way, you don't understand why.
Yeah,
fully. Because you need to start looking into the reasons why you're different. But I think overall, probably I felt a sense of like pride because, even in the newspapers that we were reading and stuff, you start understanding there's a pride in like a people struggling for what's right for them and what's right in general. So, I was developing that, I guess, but yeah.
Do you feel that your mother and your grandfather were able to fill the gap left by your dad at that time?
I think I would probably say mostly yes, because I say mostly yes because there are other many people in many situations where they're not as lucky as I was in that sense. So I was lucky to have a very, very strong mother figure, that I'm very proud of and feel privileged to have and a grandfather, which I described earlier. So in that sense, I think, yeah, but ultimately there are things like, you go to like school ceremonies and things like that, and you're like, where's your dad? Or, so there's that element which, it's there. You are aware of it, but you don't know how to process it yet or understand, and you maybe suppress it. So I probably did a lot of suppression when I was younger, which came out later. But yeah, I think overall, though, I was lucky enough to, have had good, supportive people.
Okay. In our short conversation before recording, you mentioned something that really caught my attention. Why would a Palestinian take a stance against Palestine?
Oh, I see. Yeah. So this was me revealing, I guess, that at some point I was against the Palestinian cause and the people and everything. And this is where I can see Nadine's face.
How old you were?
What is happening?
I want to know what. Okay, I'm sure there are good reasons. What made you? What led you to decide at this stage of your life to take such a huge shift? And I'm sure there was a switch somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's...
of course, we're witnessing that.
No, yeah.
Definitely.
Well,
and when did it start?
How old you were at that time?
Yeah. Well, I think, before I got to that, there was a phase where, we're talking about the gap that my dad left and me feeling like, and also the whole don't say your name, a combination of things coming together to make you almost like, and this is the whole, when you look at the situation today and how they make everything Palestinian be the worst or whatever, or like so bad, just making you feel guilty of being Palestinian kind of thing. It's the same thing as it was back then. Now I'm even more so because it's just in your face all the time.
Exactly.
Whereas when I was growing up, it was in my sort of world, but like other people weren't exposed to it as much.
Because of your surrounding.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Now you go on social media and like, it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
So that the combination of all of that and feeling different, being different. I said about being quiet.
Yeah.
All of that made me feel like an outcast in school and things like that. I didn't have close friends. I didn't have best friends. The people had their groups and they were like, you know. So I immediately started going into other things like I liked rap music and American culture and in English stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I had Tupac, Eminem stuff on my wall and everything.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I got a job in a hotel. This is when I was 15. My first job was working in a hotel here in Cyprus.
Too young.
Yeah, I was actually illegal, but because I was tall enough. I looked old enough at the time, so
So it served you.
Yeah, it worked for me. So then I got exposed to the whole British culture.
Okay.
And I started feeling like I'm more compatible with these people. I really like it,
Yeah.
So I went through this phase first of like, I want to be British, I want to be English, kind of thing. And then eventually moved to London after. So I did the army here, did my studies in a college. When I finished all of that, decided, I'm going to go and move to the UK because I want to explore life. I didn't go to study. I just went straight to and it's at that point that I kind of like, again, I'm still in this phase of like rejecting my own roots, identity. I'm going through an identity crisis, a heavy one, And then I get exposed to this other stuff, which is like, it was this philosophy, some people might know it, it's called objectivism. It's like led by this woman called Ayn Rand. She passed away, but, and this philosophy is a very sort of individualistic, selfish philosophy, right? And, it felt very comfortable for me because it was like, I don't need other people based on all of this,
it served you at that time.
It served me very well.
Yeah.
And I found other like-minded people. And it just happens that all these people tend to also not support, public government spending, no public schools, no, hospitals, stuff like that. Very selfish, sort of like driven, free market kind of capitalism, all of that. And at the same time, they're also pro-Israeli, pro-West, in the sense of like...
So you were basically vocal about your stance back then. You were voicing your stance that you're anti-Palestinian.
Oh, yeah. Well, it wasn't just... Yeah. I would come back to Cyprus and I was also... became also a militant atheist kind of thing, So I would come back and I would argue with my grandparents, my aunts about politics, religion, what have you. I felt so kind of like... strong, let's put it that way. It was the moment where I felt strong compared to when I was younger. And it made me feel good at the time. It's this is why though when I talk to like
but now as you are witnessing, you are one of the strongest supporter of Palestine. When and how did this shift happen?
Yeah, so what I was going to say just now is that this is why whenever I talk with anybody who's like, pro-Israeli or whatever, or Zionist, I almost want to laugh because I tell them like, there's nothing you can tell me that I don't already know.
It's like been there, done that.
Yeah. Like I know exactly every argument and it's the same because it was the same back then, it's the same now.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's changed. If anything that's changed, it's the fact that it's easier to debunk these things.
Exactly.
Like then I had to read books afterwards and all of that stuff, but now it's easier. But the switch, I think it was, again, it was a pivotal moment. I remember it was like coming back to Cyprus. I'm going through this crisis, so I'm coming back and arguing with family about stuff that make me feel like give me, validity or whatever. And in one of those conversations, I'm arguing with an aunt of mine. I can't remember what it was about, and she turned around and she goes to me, you're acting all strong and this and that, but it's your mom that's paying your bills in England. And she wasn't wrong because I was selling running shoes at one point. I was working in a wine bar in the UK. I wasn't doing a job that was paying enough for me to live there. So
to support yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my mom would often, support me. And I remember like just hearing that and then going to my mom's house and turning and telling my mom, you're never going to see me back in Cyprus again until I'm self-sustainable, until you stop sending me money. Whether it's 6 months or 2 years or 3 years or 5, whatever it is, you're never going to see me in Cyprus. And so went back to the UK, started looking for to figure out what I wanted to do with my life.
I'm gonna stop.
Sorry,
here.
I'm going a bit of
I can't. As a mother, I have to ask this question. How was her reaction toward
again,
that?
this is, it's another area where I feel lucky and privileged, where my mom was like very supportive of even now, I don't understand how she was so, whatever.
She's a mother.
Yeah.
I believe all mothers are
I guess, I guess. But it's a crazy thing to well, maybe it's not a crazy thing. I mean,
I don't think any of our mothers would let us live on the streets, even.
No, it was more like I guess, I was going in random directions, aimless kind of thing. And I was trying things like I was working in shops. Then I was trying to sell T-shirts online. I was doing really random stuff.
It was self-discovering yourself. You were in a self-discovery phase.
Yes.
That's what I could call it, a self-discovery. I think everybody goes through it probably in a different manner. We all go through it in different ways. It just happened that you went with it in that sense. So.
No, but that's where because you asked about, that's why I feel lucky that she was supporting him enough to, instead of no, you're not going to go or, whatever. But, so also I was probably, in my 20s, what could she have done to stop me? I guess it's the answer.
Yeah, exactly. You're still young.
I can't remember where I was going with that, but no, sorry. I went back to the UK and I was like, okay, what kind of job can lift you out of this situation? Well, I want a job that I can travel the world, in my head. So I kind of started looking at professions, and then I got into programming, did a boot camp for 3 months, learned how to code. And then that was my first job. But this was
paying job.
Yeah. Well, that was paying enough that I didn't need any more support.
Okay.
And this was so I came back to Cyprus after a year and a half, maybe. Whereas before I would come twice a year.
Yeah.
I was
you were self-sufficient, let's say. One way or another.
Yeah. Because I did the boot camp, and then I went through an apprenticeship with this programming company, company that did software company. And I didn't get paid a full salary until I finished the apprenticeship, and my apprenticeship was another 8 months, 9 months. So,
but this has nothing. What about university?
I did hotel and tourism management here in Cyprus.
In Cyprus,
but it was like a diploma, 2 years in a college here, because I was working in hotels and in a hotel. So I was that sounds like a good. I enjoyed my time working in a hotel. But
this is before you went to UK.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. Okay. So I worked for 3 summers in a hotel here and at a hotel, and really enjoyed it. But it's the typical thing when you enjoy when you're a young kid, but then when you get a bit older, you're like, the shifts are not really good.
I want something stable.
It's not really that good. So, it's fun if you enjoy that kind of thing, but
I believe you probably got some good experience, in this field.
It's the reason
in the hospitality, field.
It's the reason I ended up in the UK. Both the first time that I went to the UK, the first time that I went to the UK was a family that I met at the hotel that I was working at. They invited me to go and stay with them for 2 months. For a month.
Yeah.
And I was looking after their kids.
Oh, really?
They had I talk about these things, and when I think about it now, I'm like, would I ever have a 17-year-old come to my house and leave him alone with my 2 kids that I met in a hotel Probably not.
Yeah.
But again, luck, right? Like these people felt comfortable enough with me. So that was my first exposure to the UK that I really enjoyed. And when I decided to move to London, there was another family that I again met in the hotel.
Yeah.
They were like, you can stay with us for a couple months.
Wow.
Until you find a job.
Yeah.
And again, all these things that seemingly don't have a connection in your journey, like they
connected the dots, basically.
Yeah. Again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm amazed by all of these challenges and shifts
I'm trying not to say anything.
you have been through in your life, and we still in the middle of your way. You're still in 20s at that time.
This is still 20s. Yeah, because I'm still like in that phase. So, when I got that programming job and sort of like started slowly walking out of this sort of like cycle and circle that I was in terms of like ideology and being surrounded again by like-minded people that weren't in that circle. It sort of like pulled me out of that phase and into what I really was.
Yeah.
I really am. Because again, one of the first things that I don't have, crazy memories when I first got to London or anything, but I remember, when I talk to people about the Palestinian struggle, one thing that I remember very clearly is when I went to London, it was 2008 and it was the bombing of Gaza.
Yeah.
And there was a big march in London. At the time, this was the biggest one. I think it was like 250,000 people. And on that day, because one of the reasons I went to London in the UK was I wanted to try my luck in football as well. So I was emailing football clubs, trying to get trials and things like that. And one of them responded to me and they were like, oh, can you come on this day? We have a trial, a game, you can play and we'll evaluate you. And it was the same day as the demonstration from Gaza. And I remember sitting in my bedroom and thinking like, what do I do? Do I go to the demonstration? Do I go to... And I remember going to the demonstration and I had so much anger in me. I got out of the train station and I was it started and I got there maybe 20 minutes late or whatever. And from my anger, I was walking so fast that I ended up in the front of the demonstration and we were passing through the embassy, Israeli embassy. We're at the, I think it was Hyde Park. And when I look back now, it was one of those moments where I look back and I said to myself, you always knew who you were. You just got lost.
Yes.
Somewhere along the way. And it was good that you got lost because it made things more clear eventually. It helps you gain clarity, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Wow.
On your journey of self-discovery, you mentioned that at one point you went through reevaluating your faith. Can you speak more about that? Because I think there is a lot of teenagers also going through that at one point.
Yeah. So it's an interesting topic. I don't know if I'm the best person to kind of like talk about that, but I think faith is something that's like, it's a very personal thing. And, I went through that phase where I was very sort of like a militant atheist that would come back and argue and attack Christianity, Islam, or everything left and right, kind of thing. And, later as I was sort of like growing up and maturing, I guess, as a person, you start realizing that people find, many ways to like find strength to go through life, right? And even if that's the only thing that you take from faith, that's really still a very powerful thing to take. And you cannot argue with that. Like, look, for example, what's happening in Gaza.
Yeah.
And you look at people that seem so resilient because they have that faith.
Yes.
Right? You cannot argue against that. Like, even if you don't believe in anything, even if you are very sort of like, you have to look at them and feel at least respect, very minimum. And then curiosity to maybe read more, to understand more, to explore more, keep your mind open, you know.
True.
I think there's far too much rationality in the world, you know, because everything in excess is bad.
Yes.
Like, if you don't drink water, you die. If you drink too much water, you still die.
Exactly. So find the middle.
So, you know.
Find the balance.
Life is a very, and in general, like a fluid thing. Like balance is this is the problem, I think. People think balance is a very fixed thing.
It's not.
It's not. It's always a shifting thing that you, as you know, like when Nazi Germany was around, there was no, let's find the balance. You had to go to the other side.
Yeah.
To counter that extreme, you know, that's the only option you had at the time.
True.
So, sorry, we went from faith into like. You know.
No, we're coming into now a really good one. The woman, Makis.
Oh.
Yes, it's a $1 million question. The woman in Makis' life, what role does a woman play in your life, whether it be a mother, a sister, or even a wife?
One by one.
You can dissect.
Honestly, I think the answer is probably true, not just for women in my life, but like, you know, in general, like family, friends. I think it probably becomes more important if it's a partner or a mother figure. But I think it's true for the other sort of like personas as well. But, you know, having somebody that allows you the space to be yourself, your authentic self, but also the space to grow into your future self. I think those are, and that's where I feel very lucky with my mom kind of thing, because, you know, after I got that job that was paying me enough money and stuff, I was going through some documents to find some stuff, because I kept a bunch of documents and bank statements and things like that.
Yeah.
And I went through the money that she sent me, and I summed it up, and I called her to say thank you, and I started crying, and because it made me realize, like, without this person giving me this space and this ability, this room to like explore and try things and have this blind faith almost. Belief in that, you know, my kid will eventually find its way. I think that's the thing that, you know, a partner or a mother figure is the best thing that they can do for their.
Absolutely,
you know?
And that takes a lot of strength.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I mean, talking from a mother's perspective, for a mother to do that, it takes a lot of strength. You know, like to let her child go and explore himself and. Yeah. Go into a self-discovery journey, but knowing and having the faith that her son or her daughter will get there.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of strength, to be honest.
And she wasn't judgmental, you know. She would provide feedback and criticism, but she was never like, you know, are you crazy? What are you doing? Like, you should be ashamed or this or that. There was no shame involved, which is a big thing, you know, like, shame is such a, you know, hard thing to put on anyone.
Yeah.
Let alone somebody who's trying to discover themselves.
Exactly. And that's also very important, not being judgmental.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, giving feedback, comments or tips maybe, or advices, but not judgmental, because that will shape the person which you are today.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So
I think it was also because my mom was like myself too. You know, this is a woman that fell in love with a Palestinian student in Bulgaria.
She knows.
And then went with him to countries, following the Palestinian struggle, armed struggle, all of that. You know, she wasn't somebody who followed the traditional trajectory.
So she might saw herself in you, probably.
Possibly, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Or she could, you know, empathize far more than somebody who hadn't had the experiences that she had. Yeah, for sure.
And what about the other women in your life?
Nancy is insisting.
Yes.
She wants to know.
You mean like
Because I know sometimes as a woman, we met men in our lives. Some of them add a value to your life. Some of them leave a negative impact where you can turn it to fuel yourself to be more successful in your life.
Yeah. No, I mean, I used to be married, no longer, but I still feel an enormous amount of gratitude for that person and love, because I think in general, not just in a relationship, but even with friends or parents or whatever, like everything helps you along the way, good, bad.
Exactly.
There's no, it's a perspective thing that I think, people should look at it from, which is the glass is half full, right? It's very difficult when you're hurt, when you're upset to see that, but ultimately it is. Like even arguments or things that you don't agree and then maybe lead to separation or whatever, are pieces of information to help you grow and move to the next phase of your life. And it makes you understand, maybe appreciate more what are the things that you want or are important to you, and find them in another person, which I found. So I'm lucky in that sense. But yeah, you don't know often what is it that you want from a partner until you go through that process, right?
Absolutely.
So this is why it's important to live with someone and spend time and understand them, and, yeah.
I mean, regardless of the experience, some people might take it negatively, but I believe that whether the experience is good or bad, what you take from the experience is also reevaluating yourselves, reevaluating your decisions in life. It doesn't mean that your decisions were wrong, but probably there were things that you didn't think that they were of value. And then later on, it's something that makes you reevaluate all your decisions, If let's say we're going to talk about the divorce, for example, you didn't take it in the wrong way. You took it positive, That's why you're talking and with so much love and light inside, Yeah.
So, I mean, I think ultimately, I always say that I try to do things that help me sleep at night, right? Even though sometimes those things, when looked from the outside, friends or family might say, "What are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that," or whatever. To me, it was more like it helps me sleep at night because it's aligned with who I am and who I want to be. When people say, "I want to be more caring, I want to be more this," well, you're presented with opportunities in life to do that thing, and then you get to choose. Do you want to? This is your moment to show love, to show forgiveness, to show anger, or to show this. So you choose. It's not enough to just talk about it. So I think this is the lens through which I see these things. It's like these are chances to become the things that you say you are or want to become.
Exactly. Act upon the things that we preach about. Basically, not just preach it to people, but act upon it.
Yeah, because often, something might sound nice. I want to be this way. But what that looks in practice might come with a really heavy cost for you, right? For your own self, to learn that, to be that thing, and forgiveness is a big one because even in family relationships or in friendships or whatever, there's a reason why forgiveness is such a big thing in all the religions, philosophies, whatever you have it, because it's a very difficult thing to do because it has such a high cost, personal cost.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it has a really high reward.
Yeah.
because you release yourself from something and you heal and you move on. Eventually you heal.
Yeah.
But in that moment, though, there's a lot of hurt.
Yeah. Maybe later, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe later. Some people choose to forgive. Some people choose not to forgive. But I believe, I'm a firm believer in forgiveness. Maybe not at that moment, but at one point you need to forgive in order to lift that weight off your shoulder, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, like you said, move on, you know? So, wow. I don't know what to say. I'm speechless.
How is your relation with your sisters? You mentioned that you have a sisters from your that side. So are you in contact?
Very good relationship. Yeah, you know, whenever I go to Jordan, we'll you know, I'll try to, you know, hang out with them. Like we'll go into Jabal Amman and all of that. And did I say that correctly? It's the other way around. Like the
Jabal Amman.
Jabal Amman.
I think it's no way. There's a center of Amman anyway, where all the shops are and stuff. Forgot what it's called.
Are they older than you or younger?
Younger.
Okay.
So, you know, I try to like hang out with them, take them out, talk about stuff. But, you know, they're also on their own journey, you know, teenage years and stuff like that.
Oh.
So it's there's always a challenge regardless of people and when there's an age gap, but we try.
You still connect.
Oh
on
yeah,
some level,
yeah. Oh yeah,
basically.
for sure. Yeah. Hoping to bring them to Cyprus soon.
No, that would be nice.
What are some other hobbies besides being a avid reader, as I noticed, and you play football?
Yeah, no, I like reading a lot. I think one day I'd like to open a bookshop maybe, but that's a better line of business than the one I had, because I spend way too much money on books. But football is a big one. I like supporting my local football club. Getting involved now with the politics in the village. I like cooking. You know, I don't have as much time nowadays, but I try. I enjoy cooking. I used to try and learn Arabic, but that's also falling off the bandwagon. I have to like pick it up again.
Yeah. How do you balance all these things?
I don't.
Do your work?
This is the problem.
You know?
This is things fall off, and then you have to decide what are the things that are most important for you. And the challenge there is that as you grow, those things change.
Yes.
So something that was important before is no longer important, and that's how it goes.
You just need to prioritize, basically. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But what do these hobbies add to your life?
I mean, I try to do things that...
For example, when you are stand and cooking, what the feeling that you had?
The feeling of calmness.
Makis, tell us, what do you cook?
I can cook lohia, I can cook maklube.
Wow, I cannot cook it.
What I can... Yeah.
Wow,
I can roll it.
These are like really like top notch, you know, like kind of dishes.
I don't know if I do them well, but I do them, you know. So no, I mean it's a very meditative process for me. So whenever I cook, it's like a relaxing thing. So that's why I'm not a good person to cook with.
Yeah.
In the sense of like I'm not terrible.
Yeah.
But I just when I make a dish, I like to make it a little bit my way kind of thing.
Okay.
You know, not to deviate too much from the process I want to follow. And because it's a very sort of like, you know, I think about stuff, it relaxes me. So it adds to my relaxation, I guess. But it's also culture, you know, like it brings me closer to the same thing when I cook Cypriot food. Is like it brings me closer to my roots, to my people. So I think all the things that I do, whether it's reading or they serve usually these kind of like areas like relaxation, clarity, further clarity into who you are and your roots and connection. So, yeah.
How many pets you have at your home?
How many?
Pets.
You have pets at home?
I saw on his
not anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. We, you know, when I separated with my ex, they were also, they moved.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can get your own.
Yeah, maybe. My new partner, she's very big fan of cats. So maybe it'll be a cat next time. So.
Oh, great.
So tell me, I know that you ran for the village that you're from, the municipality. What made you take such decision? I mean, what made you decide that? I'm sure you didn't wake up one day and decide that, I want to run for the elections. So what was that drive that made you do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Sometimes I ask myself the same thing. No, I think a lot of it was to do with the fact that, I grew up in a very political family. My granddad from my mom's side was a mayor of the village as well at some point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my other granddad was into politics as well. My dad was a diplomat. So, but putting those aside, as a person, I am a political person. I get involved into things, whether it's demonstrations or whatever. But like, there's this also trap with the world that we live in, which is the social media, where, there's a twofold challenge there. One is, there's a ton of information that comes at you, and it's almost unfiltered.
Yeah.
And then you have to figure out what's real, what's not. And then there's the part of like, what action can I do on this? Which I think is the important thing.
Right.
And when you look around, I think there's far too many people where they think, I think the US election is a good example now. And it's like one day you go vote and that's it, that you're done. No, I mean, change, however you want to see it, is something that takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of engagement with people, with communities. And for me, I think a lot of the issues that we see today are things that come from the fact that people focus too much from the top to bottom type of change instead of bottom to top.
Yes.
Exactly.
Going the other way.
Yeah.
And the smallest unit in that journey is a village, is a small community that you belong to and you have direct impact.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like, it was the thing of, if I want to improve things or I want to see change, I have to get involved and, get involved in difficult conversations, difficult situations, talk with people that we may not be on the same level, probably on many things, but this is where you build bridges.
Exactly.
I mean, the alternative is what? Like fighting and to what? To what end? Until one person stands?
Yeah.
And then they come back to haunt you. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
What challenges did you face during the election or after you took the position?
I don't think I faced too many before, partly because I have a big family in the village, which helps, right? But I guess one challenge was the fact that I was away from the village for 12 years plus. Lived in London and all of that. So there were people that kind of like didn't remember who I was because I left when I was really young, and they're like, "Oh, who is this guy? Oh, okay, it's the son of so and so and so and so." But this is where I kind of like, I try to use social media as a way to like, I post things, I write things. Is a way to learn, okay, this is what Makis is about. But at the same time, but also to that, I would go to events in the village. Like, I wouldn't do it though because I wanted to win the election. It's things that you should do, that anyone should do when they want to get involved and help.
Serve the community.
Serve the community. That's it. It's what you normally do. Anyone, whether you want to get involved with politics or not, the best thing to do is bond with your community, like the people that you grew up with, the challenges they face, and develop those kind of bonds.
Exactly.
Go to events, go to things.
Get more engaged. And because of your status after winning the elections, did your view changed about, certain governmental positions? I mean, you entered the elections because you wanted to serve the community. You wanted to, you had thoughts, ideas in your mind about the community, how to make it better, and because you come from a political background too. So did your views change after the elections, after you won the elections?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think not massively, but like in important ways, in the sense that you understand how many things need fixing.
Yeah.
How many things don't get fixed and why, maybe.
And the bureaucracy.
Internal politics. There's a very sort of like, especially in a village, you see this a lot more because it's a small community. So people, you see things that happen on a bigger scale at a very small level, which is also a good thing because you can try to address it there first, right? And so, yeah, you have this view of those situations, and then you can only imagine what happens when you extrapolate.
Yeah.
But also, it made me realize even more so how far detached the big parties are from their bases, right? Like normal people living in a small village, going about their day-to-day work and all of that stuff. What challenges do they face? What do they care about? Like, it's so different to what you go to, like a political gathering and like a big party, let's say. And it's so like, so this is the kind of level of engagement that's missing, I think.
It's like disconnected.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no bridge.
Yeah.
There's no interconnected bridge.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. There's a lot of this. It's really disconnected to the point that we need to go to the other direction, I think. We need more people engaging in.
So you have a lot of work to do, basically.
Yeah. A lot of work.
I mean, can we ask if there is something specific that is being done, like a specific project?
Yeah, I mean, we have different projects.
In relation to the village, I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean, we have different stuff that we try to work on. Like, we have a library, for example, that's not being utilized anymore. So a goal of mine and other people is to try and...
With all the books that
I know,
you have also,
Makis. Well, there's a lot of challenges there because it's not just about reopening it. It's about getting people to start reading again.
Exactly.
Because people don't read, younger people especially. So how do you, again, being the bridge, how do you build a bridge? How do you become the bridge of these worlds? There's multiple challenges there with that. But there's also little things like we need a new road in the village, and then you need people to sign to agree to this road.
Oh my God.
And one person doesn't agree, and then you have to go, there's all kinds of stuff that people just don't have a view of that happens behind the scenes that are just, very difficult.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good luck.
I want to move to the family relationships now. How can you describe your relation with your mom and dad at this age?
No, it's very good. It's very good. The place that I'm at internally, let's say, I feel very grateful to both of them for, the things that they did and the things that they didn't do. Because again, the glass is half full. Those things are, instructive, I think. Everything is instructive. So I'm grateful. I feel grateful for them. I feel a lot of love for them. I try to make as much time with them as possible. I live here, but I try to go to Jordan often enough. I try to talk with my dad on, online and stuff. So, yeah.
If you have a chance to send a message to your mom and dad after all the challenges you've been through and your life journey and all the accomplishment that you gained, what would you say to them?
To be more forgiving of each other.
Nice.
But also more forgiving of themselves. I think that's probably the first one. Because I think, we go back to forgiveness. It's like, first and foremost, you do it for yourself to, release the pain and find closure and all of that. and then for others.
Yeah.
So, but also thank you, you know, like I think I can only thank them for showing me the things that they did. Yeah, like even things that people would cringe upon or not understand. Like, I'll give you an example. Like my dad, you know, at one point, this is like in the 90s, he went for holidays to Palestine, and there was, I think it was the Intifada that began, or it was the end of the first one. I can't remember exactly, but he ended up staying there for a long period of time. And then, you know, we didn't know what was happening and stuff. He came back, he brought tapes, you know, VCR, video tapes, kind of old school tapes of like raw footage from the clashes. And, you know, we're kids watching these things. Things that you now see on Twitter, we had on videotapes that we would put on the thing. Yeah. And, you know, it sounds like a traumatizing thing to show to, you know, what is a kid at the time. But it also makes you aware, tuned into this world of like, there is a people that are struggling and fighting for ethics, so and so and so. So, you know, even something that I would maybe be judgmental of my father for doing, ultimately is something that helped me find clarity in the world, in me, in many things. So, yeah.
It was basically like his way of saying there's others that we should also think about, I guess, you know, and coming from a Palestinian background, basically.
Because that's how he also grew up himself. So,
wow. As a Makis, and as you are doing your duty toward your Cypriot society, you are also as Farid.
Oh, yes.
doing your duty toward the Palestinian culture, as you mentioned before. You are trying to do something to raise awareness about your Palestinian culture in your village. Can you give us more details about that?
Yeah, so I mean, this is another area where I think direct engagement is the only way, because you know when people engage with Makis, they're also engaged. So Farid is my Arabic name that my Arabic family call me with. So Makis is the name of my granddad from my mom's side. Okay. Farid is the name of my granddad from my father's side.
See, so there is no disagreement here.
Yeah, exactly. They settle on
no disagreement.
Yeah, no, when they engage with me, like whether it's in a meeting or an event, they're also engaging with Farid without them knowing necessarily, as in the Farid thing, but it's somebody who is a package of two worlds, two cultures. So their perception of a people or a situation gets influenced by that too, you know? That plays a role, because I too go to demonstrations and everything, and you know, they're very useful, but it's not enough. You know, we have to go engage more at a different level, at different levels, whether it's through cooking maklube or, you know, going at an event and giving a talk. Like we had an art festival, and like not too long ago at the village, and my girlfriend came, and she's an artist and wrote a book. And actually, that's how we met, through her book, which is about a Cypriot student, girl, goes to study abroad and falls in love with a Palestinian student. Yeah. And it's like a story of my mom. It's crazy, but anyway. So she is also an artist. So she did a bunch of paintings which were, you know, about the Palestinian struggle and cause. And so she came and demonstrated all these paintings. So all these people from the village saw all of that.
Wow. Awareness.
Right?
Raising awareness. In a different way, in an artistic manner.
Of course. You know? And you engage in conversation with people. Like, you know how many times I talk to people about maybe something else, and then the topic comes around something like, you know, related to the Palestinian struggle, and they start talking to me. It's like, yeah, you know, what's happening is terrible. They start opening up. They're trying to find, you know, to maybe learn a little bit more themselves. Because that's the other thing. It's like people are, and I think it's a normal thing. Everybody has this where you feel guilty of not knowing about X, Y, Z, or showing ignorance, or all of these things. So you have to make it safe enough for people to open up.
Exactly.
To talk to them and without being judgmental about it.
Without maybe also being direct, you know, I mean, through cultural events, through like the festival that you just mentioned, you know, maybe cooking, cultural cuisine.
Music.
Exactly.
Music. I mean, who doesn't love Arabic music?
Absolutely. There's a lot of aspects rather than, you know, just protesting, you know.
Yeah, you need a combination of things. Like, you know, you need a number of things. It's if it was only one thing, we would have done it, and our people would be free.
Exactly. But and also, I believe it depends on the people that you're targeting, because there's certain people that, like you said, they need a safe zone, a safe area, like a festival, a cultural event, like the one that was a festival a couple of weeks ago in Ipsonas. It was a cultural cuisine also. People, you know, wanting to learn more about Palestinian or Lebanese or any other cuisine or culture through these kind of events, which I believe people connect with it more.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course.
I mean, it is the truth, you know, people connect more with these kind of events. You know?
And also because you're up against another big challenge, which is how the media portray often Palestinians.
True.
And I mean, you know, the media, the main sort of like mainstream media kind of thing. And so when you see some Palestinians like cooking and dancing and writing poems or doing this kind of stuff, you're like, oh, you know, I thought it was just guns.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many people.
Exactly.
People don't understand how many people carry, there's an enormous amount of people that carry this perception. And you're not going to fix it by just doing a demonstration.
No, absolutely.
You know, like it helps in awareness and everything, but you need to go further.
But it's not enough.
No, you need to go further. You need to reach further.
Yeah.
You know,
because not just Palestinians, I mean, all nationalities.
Exactly.
And because we're talking about Palestinians now, we are more than just protest. We have culture, we have history, we have music, and people, yes, they would get a certain perspective about somebody when you say, oh, Palestinian, oh, they're just about protest. No, we're a lot more. We have more. We have history. We have food. We have music. We are people that we like to live and we want to live. So yeah, I agree with what you said 100%.
Yeah.
Do you have a principle or wisdom that you believe in and follow in your life?
I'm quite into Stoicism, which is a philosophy, but like it's the, you know, the whole glass is half full thing of like, you know, taking everything as it comes, even hardships, and trying to like find the light in a really, really dark place. I think it's a really difficult thing to do, but it's the thing that keeps me going. I mean, hope as a concept to me is a really big idea. Such a powerful thing because it's the one thing that you cannot argue with, you cannot defeat, you know. So trying to leave the world a little bit better, you know. I like to think that I think it was from Stoicism or some other philosophies, but I think even religion talks about the same thing, which is, you know, greatness is in the moment, right? It's not about big things that you do. It's like, how good are you or can you be in this moment with this person, with this group of people, with these feelings, you know, like with yourself, you know, be kind to yourself, forgiving, all of these things. Every moment, it's a sort of thing that I try to remember myself. I mean, there's a Stoic thing which says memento mori, which is remember you have to die, and it's the concept of like reminding yourself that you have to die, so that you gain perspective. And you
Yeah.
come back and I've used it in times when I was in an argument, or I'm angry and I'm upset. I tell myself this, I try to whisper it to myself,
Yeah.
and it's like, it kind of like brings you back,
Brings
and
you,
it's
grounds
like,
you
yeah,
back.
exactly.
You know?
So that's
Man,
the kind of
I got the goosebumps. Seriously. Wow.
Looking back at Makis as a child and a teenager, what advice would you give to them at that time if you have that chance?
Yeah, probably give them a few, but I think the main one is being quiet is okay. And, you might think of it as a weakness or a bad thing, but it's actually the path towards listening, which in itself then is the path towards empathy and compassion. And those are the things that you will need for yourself and for others later, and it will help you. So, yeah.
I'm sure that your story, your inspiring journey, challenges, and your strength that you passed through, it will give hope and also strength for those who are facing what you have been faced. I can't thank you enough. To be honest, I think this is one of our
Emotional.
Yeah.
It was very heartwarming. And I also want to thank you a lot for being with us here today. And thank you for accepting the invitation to be on Podcastak.
Do you have any message for Palestinian people now?
It's difficult for me to give them a message being in a very comfortable position, to be honest. But, I think they're the ones giving us the messages, which is, when you see them keep going in the midst of a genocide. I posted a picture yesterday on Instagram about 2 children in in rubbles in a house that was destroyed, dressed up as superheroes. And, the Palestinian spirit itself is full of lessons, I think, that go beyond the Palestinian identity or the cause. It's, lessons of resilience, it's things that you read about in books and heroic novels and all of this stuff. They're living it. They're the ones portraying these heroes and the spirit that I think a lot of us would love to have. So I try to, pull lessons from them more than I have something to give them, really. But what I would say to them is that, they're not alone. And it's a silly thing to say because they definitely feel alone with all the things that are happening. But me and others will try their best to carry the torch and preserve what we can till ultimate liberation. So,
yeah. I fully agree with what you said. There's nothing we can say. Every day we see things that make us more and more speechless. And yes, they are alone, and we are actually learning from them rather than them learning from us. They have the faith, like you mentioned before, resilience, and this is something that unfortunately many people lack nowadays. So, yeah. Wow. Thanks again.
No, thank you for having me.
It was our utmost pleasure having you here today. And really, your journey is phenomenal by all means. And thank you for sharing it with us and with the viewers and listeners. And for me, it was, I mean, I know Makis, but no, I know Makis in a different way, you know, seriously. And I want to wish you all the best, you know, because you have a lot to offer to the community, to the world, and keep it up.
Thank you.
Luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me and for creating a safe space for me to come and share what I've shared. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dear viewers and listeners, thank you for joining us today on this truly exceptional and inspiring life journey of our guest Makis. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories. Take care and see you soon.